A quiet but profound shift is underway in Canada. It affects millions of people. These are the temporary workers stocking our grocery shelves. They are the international students filling our college classrooms. They are the families dreaming of a permanent future here. The year 2025 marks a critical turning point. New immigration rules are set to take effect. These are not minor tweaks to a complex system. They represent a fundamental change in Canada's approach to immigration. The stakes could not be higher for those who have built their lives on the promise of a Canadian future. Before the current wave of changes, Canada's immigration system was built on a different philosophy. It was designed to attract and retain talent. International students could get a Canadian education, then apply for a post-graduation work permit, or PGWP. This permit allowed them to work for any employer for up to 3 years. This Canadian work experience was the main ingredient needed to apply for permanent residence through programs like the Canadian Experience Class. The system was predictable, a clear pathway for those who invested in Canada. It allowed people to plan their lives. They could take out loans for tuition, sign leases for apartments, and start families, all with a reasonable expectation that their efforts would lead to a stable future in Canada. They were our neighbors, colleagues, and friends. The social contract, though unwritten, was clear. Contribute to Canada, and Canada will offer you a path to belong. It was this promise that attracted hundreds of thousands of people each year. They saw Canada not just as a place to work or study, but as a place to call home. The new rules slated for 2025 represent a dramatic departure from the old path. The federal government is shifting its focus. The most significant change is the introduction of caps. For the first time, Canada will set a limit on the number of new temporary resident permits issued each year. This means that even if a student is accepted into a Canadian college, or a worker has a valid job offer, they might not get a permit if the annual quota has already been filled. For international students, the changes are particularly stark. The popular post-graduation work permit is being reformed. Now, eligibility will be linked directly to labor market needs. Students graduating from programs in high-demand sectors like healthcare, skilled trades, or STEM may still get a PGWP. However, students in other fields, such as many business or arts programs, might find themselves ineligible. This change severs the once reliable link between a Canadian education and Canadian work experience, making the path to permanent residency much harder for a large cohort of graduates. The express entry system, the main gateway to permanent residence, is also being overhauled. The government is moving towards category-based draws. Consider the story of Priya, an international student from India. She arrived in 2023 to study business administration at a college in Brampton. Her parents used their life savings to fund her education, believing it was an investment in her future. Priya worked part-time at a coffee shop to cover her living expenses, studied diligently, and dreamed of a career in marketing. But under the new 2025 rules, her business program might not qualify her for a PGWP. Her dream is now a nightmare of uncertainty. Then there is Marco, a construction worker from the Philippines. He has been in Edmonton for 4 years on a closed work permit tied to a single employer. His wife and 2 children remain back home, waiting for the day he can sponsor them as a permanent resident. Under the new category-based draws, his occupation is a priority. However, his employer is now struggling with the stricter LMIA renewal process. If the company cannot renew his permit, Marco could be forced to leave Canada, just as his dream was within reach. The most immediate and painful consequence of these new rules is that many people will be forced to leave Canada. The first group at risk are international graduates. Imagine completing a 2-year diploma, accumulating student debt, and integrating into a community, only to be told you must pack your bags upon graduation. This is not just a policy change, it is the shattering of a promise. These bright, educated individuals who chose Canada will have to take their skills and ambitions elsewhere. Another large group facing an uncertain future are temporary workers in non-priority occupations. Think of administrative assistants, retail supervisors, or hospitality managers. With the shift to category-based draws, they may never receive an invitation, no matter how high their score or how long they have been here. They are in a state of perpetual temporariness, unable to move forward, and at constant risk of having to uproot their lives. Many temporary residents have spouses and children with them in Canada. Being forced to leave means pulling children out of their classrooms and away from their friends. For those who have been supporting families back home, a return is often a return to economic hardship, having spent years in savings on a Canadian dream that ultimately failed them. The impact will create significant ripples across the entire Canadian economy. The tech industry has long used immigration as a tool to recruit top developers and engineers from around the world. With new caps and more restrictive pathways, Canadian tech companies will find it harder to compete with global giants for talent. This could slow down innovation and push investment to other, more welcoming countries. Small and medium-sized businesses will also feel the pressure. Many businesses depend on temporary foreign workers to fill jobs that Canadians are often unwilling to do. Stricter LMIA rules and caps on permits will create labor shortages. We could see help wanted signs become a permanent fixture, service hours reduced, and in some cases, businesses closing their doors for good. While the government hopes that reducing temporary residence will ease pressure on housing, the reality is more complex. A shortage of construction workers could slow down the building of new homes. A sudden departure of thousands of renters could create instability in certain markets, particularly in cities with large student populations. This would ironically make the housing crisis worse in the long run. Canada has an aging population and a low birth rate. Immigration has been the primary driver of population and labor force growth for years. A significant reduction in immigration levels could strain these systems. With fewer working-age people paying into the system and a growing number of retirees drawing from it, Canada could face a long-term fiscal crunch. For those caught in this web of changing rules, proactive steps are essential. The first piece of advice is to seek professional guidance. Do not rely on rumors or online forums alone. Consult with a licensed immigration lawyer or a registered immigration consultant. They can help you understand how the new rules apply to you and explore all possible options. A small investment in professional advice can save you from making a critical mistake. It is also crucial to stay informed directly from the source. Regularly check the official website of Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada. For those still planning to come to Canada, careful planning is more important than ever. If you are a prospective student, research your program of study thoroughly. Look at provincial labor market data to see if your chosen field has strong job prospects. The days of coming to Canada with a general degree and hoping for the best are over. Finally, build your community and advocate for yourself. Connect with other newcomers who are in a similar situation. Join community organizations that support immigrants. Your stories are powerful. When shared with local politicians, community leaders, and the media, they can help put a human face on these policy changes. The 2025 immigration changes force Canada to confront a fundamental question about its identity. For decades, we have defined ourselves as a welcoming, multicultural nation built by immigrants. Our cities are celebrated for their diversity, and our social fabric is woven with threads from around the globe. This new, more restrictive approach challenges that identity. These changes also have significant implications for Canada's international reputation. When we change the rules overnight, breaking the implicit promise made to thousands, we damage that reputation. The debate touches on the core Canadian value of fairness. Many affected by these changes did everything right. To change the game in the middle of play feels fundamentally unfair. But amid this uncertainty, there is also a glimmer of hope. This moment of crisis presents an opportunity for a national conversation about the future of immigration in Canada. The solution may lie in finding a better balance. We need a system that is responsive to labor market needs without being unfairly punitive to those who have already invested in our country. It could mean working more closely with provinces and municipalities to ensure that immigration growth is matched with investments in infrastructure, housing, and healthcare. The story of Canada has always been a story of immigration. From the early settlers to the most recent arrivals, newcomers have continually renewed and enriched our nation. The current challenges are real, but they are not insurmountable. The path forward requires empathy, innovation, and a recommitment to the values of fairness and opportunity. The choices we make now will determine whether we continue this legacy of nation building. The futures of millions of people and the future of Canada itself depend on us getting it right. The clock is ticking, and the world is watching. Canada stands at an immigration crossroads. The path we choose will define us for generations to come.